So sales taxes are regressive because everybody pays the same sales tax rate no matter what, whereas income taxes are progressive because everybody, you pay based on how much money you make. And we'll look at that again today. And so then there were other types of taxes like property taxes and gift taxes, and how everybody benefits from them, like public goods are available to everybody, our roads, police, fire, education, etc. So today, moving on, taxes and other deductions. We're going to talk about mandatory and voluntary deductions from gross pay and explain how to return an income tax return briefly. We'll go over that more at the end. Okay, so we've talked about this. I don't know if we've written it down. If you've already written it down, you don't need to write it again. But gross pay is the total salary or wages earned during a pay period. Where net pay, and I think we've written this one down, also called take-home pay or disposable income, is the amount of your paycheck after deductions. So gross pay, that's what we've been calculating on our worksheets that we've done. You know, you make $15 an hour and you work 40 hours. How much money do you make? That's your gross pay. And then the net pay is after they take out deductions. And if you've ever had a job where you've gotten a paycheck, you see that they kind of take a lot of money out for different things. So here is an example pay stub from your book. You do not need to write this down. You can see at the top, Gloria Perez, her employee ID, the pay period. So this is a 2-week pay period, February 1st to 14th. She got her check a week later. She had 80 regular hours at $13 an hour. So year to date is how much money she's made since January 1st. And then you can kind of scroll down. So that second to last column, her taxes. So she paid $82 in federal income tax. All those other taxes, almost a total of $200. And then she had deductions, health insurance, life insurance, 401k, dental, $224. And so her pay period was $1,040. That was her gross pay up at the top, but her net pay down at the bottom was only $616. So she lost over $400 in taxes and other deductions. All right, so what are required paycheck deductions? Some of those we just saw were required, some of them are optional. So federal and state income taxes are withheld from your paycheck according to your income and the number of exemptions you claim on your W-4, which we'll look at that form, I think, on another slide. So federal income taxes, FIT, state income taxes, those are withheld based on exemptions. An exemption is a person claimed as a dependent on a tax return. So most likely you are an exemption for your parents because you are a dependent, is a person who depends on you for more than half of his or her support. So unless you pay for more than half of everything yourself, you are a dependent, which then means you can be claimed as an exemption. You can be used as an exemption, I should say. By filling out this form W-4, so this is an example. There is a worksheet that goes with it. So it's a withholding allowance, how many, so line 5, the number of allowances you're claiming from worksheet 2 or page 2. So Gloria is only claiming 1 deduction. So that means she doesn't have any dependents. All right, so this was also on the slides from yesterday. So to calculate federal income tax, so showing that this is progressive. So again, if you're single, you can see there's kind of a big jump. It goes 10, 12%, then it goes all the way to 22% if you make just over $40,000 a year. So again, you don't need to write this down. It's just for knowledge, just to kind of get an idea. If you're working part-time right now, you're probably in that 10% single if you are filing taxes. All right, so federal income taxes are required. You're also required Social Security tax. So Social Security tax is a withholding tax that pays for old age, survivors, and disability insurance, OASDI benefits. 6.2% of your gross pay is withheld from your paycheck and put into account using your name and Social Security number per your Form I-9. Your employer must also contribute 6.2%. So there's a lot there. That first sentence, that is the definition. So every paycheck, 6.2% is taken out and put into Social Security. It's a standard 6.2% for everybody. Your employer also pays that same percent. Again, it goes into an account with your Social Security number on it. So this is the sample I-9 that they base it off of. Basically, it just checks your citizenship level using your Social Security number. So another required paycheck deduction is Medicare tax, which is a tax that pays for Medicare for retired persons age 65 or older who receive Social Security benefits. So you pay 1.45% of your gross pay each paycheck, and your employer also pays 1.45%. So this one is a standard 1.45% for everyone. Again, it pays for medical care for those retired persons 65 and older. The FICA tax. So your paycheck may show combined Social Security and Medicare taxes as FICA because they were created by the Federal Insurance Contribution Act of 1938. So again, your paycheck may show Social Security and Medicare separate, or it could just show FICA, which is them combined, which would be 7.65%, adding the two. And another required paycheck deduction is workers' compensation, an insurance plan that pays medical and disability benefits to employees injured on the job. So we talked about workers' comp. It would pay for your medical bills and compensation for lost wages. Remember, workers' compensation if you were injured on the job. So these are some now optional paycheck deductions. So if you authorize them, you don't have to. They can be deducted from your gross pay. So you can have savings plans, different types, retirement plan, just a savings plan, HSA or FSA. We talked about those, health savings and flexible spending accounts, or stock options. You can have charitable donations taken out of your paycheck, and any type of insurance, health insurance, disability insurance, life insurance, dental, vision, or long-term care insurance. So those are all optional paycheck deductions. All right. If I'm going too fast and you need me to stay on a slide longer, go back, let me know, but it's also on Classroom. So how are individual income tax rates in your state? So I showed that chart before, that was federal income tax. This is state income tax. You pay both federal and state income tax. So you can see in California, we are 13.3% income tax rate. So you can see we pay the highest, as well as you can see there are some states that they don't pay state income taxes. So again, you don't necessarily need to write these down. Just know California is the highest. And if you're considering going out of state for college or to move, you can see what their rates are. So a graduated income tax is an income tax in which the tax rate increases at different levels of income. So most states have a state income tax that is, California's is progressive, so it's graduated, meaning the more you make, the more you pay. So how do you prepare an income tax return? So you have to get a Form W-2, which is a form used to report taxable income from a worker received during the calendar year. So if you worked in 2020, you should have already gotten your W-2. I believe they have to mail them, your employer has to mail them out by January 31st, even if you don't work for them. They have to mail those to you, and it says basically it just summarizes that whole year. So Form 1040-EZ, I crossed it off on here, but I left it on here because
I don't see no people on your computer.
They're there, buddy. They're watching and listening. So the 1040-EZ is no longer available as of 2019. I left it on here because it is still a vocab word in the book. So I'm not necessarily going to put it on like your test, but when you do that vocab worksheet, it will still be on there. But I want you to know 1040-EZs are outdated and no longer a thing. So this is a form W-2. Basically, this again is your summary that you get after you've worked, and they mail it out in January. So you can see Gloria Perez here, her wages were $25,000. She paid just over $2,000 in federal income tax. She paid Social Security tax. She paid Medicare tax. Down at the bottom is going to be how much you paid in state income taxes. So federal is all the stuff at the top, and then the bottom is state. This is a sample form 1099. Sorry. So it reports interest income earned during the year that must be included as part of your on your tax form. So if you earned interest on something like stocks or something else, then you would get one of these. Also, if you pay interest on like student loans, you're going to get something like this saying how much interest you paid on those loans. And those all get reported on your tax return. That might be the last slide. Nope. Okay, so how do you prepare a tax return? So you get all these tax forms. You get your W-2 mailed to you. If you have any of those 1099 forms, those all get mailed to you. You get them all together. You fill out your taxes. You can either use TurboTax. That's what I use. They do have a free version as well. You can use an accountant or you can do it by hand. Either way, when you e-file, that's how you get your return the quickest. If you print it and mail it in, it's going to take longer to get your tax return. There's a copy of a check on here. Yes, I'm aware most people don't have checkbooks, especially at your age, But the reason it's on here is because you need both your routing number and account number to have a direct deposit. So if you have a job already and get direct deposit, you've already given them this information. But the routing number basically says, hey, what bank does this go to? So if you bank with Wells Fargo has their own routing number, and then your account number. So they know what account to put that money into. If you don't, they're on the bottoms of checks, but when you get your account information, you get it. Or if you ever forget, you can just go in there and say, hey, I need this information. So I do plan on going over next week how to do your taxes, kind of if you want to do them by hand the long way. I was really surprised when I did that survey, I think 2 weeks ago. Almost half of the people said they wanted to learn how to do them by hand, which I am okay with going over. I don't do mine by hand, so I have to look up a few things. I've done them by hand before. I've done the 1040 easy, but that's no longer acceptable. They got rid of that form. And things are changing every year. They change the tax brackets, they change all these different things. But we will do a sample one next week or the week after. Next week's a short week, so I'm not sure. But just curious, if you said you wanted to learn to do them by hand, what's your reason? I was honestly surprised by how many people said they would like to learn to do them by hand. Because when I talk to most adults I know, they were all surprised by that too and asked why. And I really don't know why. And I'm curious. So if you said you'd want to learn them do by hand, maybe you want to check them and maybe you do them online, but want to check and see if it works out right. Maybe just to have knowledge. Maybe you really plan on doing your taxes. Maybe to see what goes into it. And then you're like, yeah, that's not for me. I'm just going to use TurboTax or some other program. If you want to just private chat that to me, you can.